Hello, welcome. Take your seats. We're about to begin. Okay, hello everybody. Welcome, welcome. It's great to see you here. My name is Roland. I'll be your moderator for today. We're just letting people join the session. We'll be starting in just a few seconds. Please do say hello in the chat if you feel like doing so. Let us know where you're joining from today. Given that it is a lunch and learn session, I'm curious if anyone's eating anything tasty. If you feel like sharing, you don't have to, but it's entirely up to you. So let's make a start. We've got a lot to get through in the next hour. Thank you, Rhiannon, joining from sunny London. So yeah, my name's Roland. I'm going to be keeping things moving over the course of the next hour. Today's theme, as you can see on the screen, is all about accelerating delivery in high impact sectors, and broadly all around creating better places as part of a program that you're going to hear a little bit more about today called Net Zero Living, which I believe to be the most ambitious attempt globally to work systemically and at scale on the place-based transition to net zero. So yeah, very excited to share a bit more with you today. So yeah, a few more words about myself. So I wear a number of different hats. Founded a company called Liminal that's been working on this program, but I'm also co-founder of something called Climate Tech Supercluster and community lead of Milestone Systems. I wasn't going to talk about those other two today. But yeah, we're part of a consortium together with Innovate UK and Urban Foresight, and actually quite a wide range of other organizations who've been helping to convene the Net Zero Living program over the last few years. And as I mentioned, 59 towns and cities working together, sharing, learning, finding collaboration opportunities, and moving farther together on their net zero living journeys. Tiny bit of housekeeping. So I think you're all muted by default, but please do, if you haven't already done so, I can see some people are saying hi in the chat, which is great. Welcome to all of you. Please do introduce yourself in the chat. Let us know where you're joining from. If you feel like telling us what you're having for your lunch with this lunch and learn session, please do so. Questions will take primarily via the Q&A function, which you should find towards the bottom of your Zoom window. But if you can't find that for any reason, feel free just to post a question in the chat, and we've got some time to deal with those. And then this event, as you can see, is being recorded, so we will share the video with you afterwards. And so in a moment, I'm going to hand over to the first of our two place-based presentations, Phoebe from the Centre for Energy Equality. And after that, we've got Anna, Steve and Craig from Orkney and Shetland Islands to talk about rural energy hubs. And then we'll do a bit of a Q&A for them for both of those presentations at about 12:30 UK time. And then the final kind of 15 minutes, I'm going to hand over to Christian Inglis from Innovate UK just to tell us a little bit more about the Net Zero Living programme and some of the outcomes and outputs and next steps with that. So hopefully that sounds good. To you all, thank you again for joining. So without any further ado, I'd like to hand over to Phoebe, who's going to kind of lead us in our first presentation. Phoebe, over to you. Thank you.
Hi, thanks, Roland. And although I can't see all of you, I can see that the numbers are rising in participants. So yes. Hi, I'm Phoebe from the Centre for Energy Equality. I head up our place-based solutions over at CEE. We're primarily a software development firm and work with a whole range of innovators in the space. And my main project is Net Zero Terrace Streets. So I'm going to be introducing Net Zero Terrace Streets, which is a place-based model designed to deliver healthy, warm homes at no upfront costs for householders. And we're focusing on community-based solutions, energy equality at its core, and keeping people at the core of this problem. So I'll briefly explain the problem that we're trying to solve and the system that we've developed, and also how we're beginning to test this through our Demonstrator as part of the Net Zero Living programme. So I am obviously only one part of a very small team in the wider Net Zero Terrace Street project. So if you do have specific questions and I can't answer them, I'll really happily pass you over to one of my colleagues. So let's start with terraces. Um, why do terraces actually get left behind? That's all right. You can imagine there's another picture of a terrace street lurking behind that other one. But um, terraced homes, we have about 6 million in the UK, and so they're a huge part of the UK housing stock. And many were built in 1919 or before 1919, often cold, inefficient, really difficult to retrofit. And as some of you may know, the current retrofit systems tend to rely on individual action, and it assumes that households can actually navigate grants, finance upgrades, manage installers, coordinate all of the work themselves. And reality, the households that need to be helped in this transition most often have the least capacity to do all of this, either financially or time-wise. In terraced homes, we also have physical constraints, so limited external spaces means that individual air source heat pumps are really difficult. And the likely alternative to gas is often the electric boiler, which, although cheap to install, often then locks householders into higher electricity bills, and it also doesn't address the underlying efficiency problems that are in these buildings, which is where Net Zero Terrace Street comes in. So this is a whole street solution. And instead of individual households acting alone, the model works at the level of a street cluster, so taking this street by street. And on a technical level, the core concept combines three things. So first of all, we have sufficient retrofit improvements to reduce the heat demand of the individual homes enough to be able to link to a shared ambient ground loop system, and that serves the street. So we're decarbonising the heating, we're making the envelope of the house more efficient, and then we're linking third to a local smart energy system, so solar and storage where appropriate, and this allows us to have a larger scale solution to decarbonise heat in dense areas where conventional approaches often struggle. And yeah, this solution is made for the communities that aren't able to benefit from the air source heat pumps, but they also fall between the gaps of not really being in the running for larger heat network schemes, and again, often in areas that are quite left behind. I'll very quickly flag the smart local energy system. So this is not on our Pathfinder project, but we've been working with SPENW alongside our Net Zero Living project on the smart local energy system and developing interfaces between the home energy management system and the grid. So we're very much in the thick of lab testing and software development, but the outcome of this will be a community energy management system that actually shares the resources fairly across the households, and also actually enabling participation in flexibility services, supporting local grid balancing in the future. So this is a really exciting and very key part of our whole solution. I'm aware this is a very whistle-stop tour, I know that slides will be shared afterwards, but the key part of this, as part of our Net Zero Living project, is working out the non-technical barriers and how do we actually deliver this to communities in a way that is effective, responsible, and also sustained across the lifetime of these longer term assets, and also in a way that gives both the households, the wider community, and also investors confidence, which is where looped energy communities comes in. So as part of the Net Zero Living project, we set up Looped as the national delivery vehicle of the Net Zero Terrace Street Scheme. And this is the organisation that provides the methodology, the tools, the quality assurance pieces that we've developed together. And Looped essentially will be holding the hands of the local community organisation groups. So I won't get into the full weeds of this diagram, but this is our organizational governance diagram. So how it actually, the structure within the community. So we have Loops as the national delivery vehicle that is providing that higher level support and quality assurance to a local community organization. So the in-person engagement is actually happening on the community level. So an organisation such as Rosendale Valley Energy will actually complete the in-person logistics on the ground. They know the householders, we then also have, again, under the regional local level, we have an asset co, which is a vehicle to enable that delivery and investment. And then the individual householders are then collectively formed into an energy club. So it means that they keep the power and the benefit within the community. And Looped, part of our methodology is being as much of a support as possible at the very beginning, but then actually building the capacity within the community so this system can actually be sustained for the long term. Moving on to our demonstrators. So how do we actually put this into practice and test it? So our key demonstrator sites are situated in Rosendale. And in Rosendale, so this is just northeast of Manchester. And this is where terraces are stone walled and mainly fit into about 4 archetypes. So we've got mid terrace, end terrace, back to back mid, and back to back end. And through the past year or so, we've taken 3 homes through in-depth retrofits, assessments, and a variety of sensors and monitoring procedures, all to learn and inform our methodology. So this has been great from a technical standpoint, but also it's actually really highlighted day-to-day realities of working in real homes. These houses are owned by the council, but they're also emergency housing. So there's been a real learning of how we actually create this methodology so that it can work for those that are most vulnerable in society. So that's been really important. Just on the next few slides, we've got a few pictures to show that we've done stuff in real life. So that's repairs, solar panel installations. The next slide shows shared boreholes for the ground loop system. We also have fabric measures. And again, next slide is the internal heat pump mixergy systems, putting everything in place so that that then actually is less disruptive or at a place that is usable for the householders. So that's really been like such a huge learning curve for informing our methodology. There are many documents that sit behind this, but here is a very brief timeline of the net zero terrestrial methodology that we've created. So there are 8 stages, and in a nutshell, this is how we take a community from that very first conversation of interest in the scheme all the way through to a fully operational cluster in the local community. And so as I'm sure many of you are aware, retrofit and smart local energy systems is a complex space, and communities are a complex space. So to facilitate this process, we've digitized as much as we can. And to do that, that's where CEE, my organisation, has created a bespoke module within our Fairer Warmth engagement tool that is the Net Zero Terrace Street digital spine. Again, if people are interested, I'm very happy to do demos at a later stage, but I've just included a couple of snapshots of the key users and how we can try to make this, how to lower the barriers as much as possible and make this easy for all of the users involved. So we've got the householders who are able to use the platform, and when they first register their interest, they are taken on their journey and they know what they need to do. It's explained to them. They're able to upload information, book the appointments that are necessary, track their progress throughout the whole project. And then they're also able to connect with a local energy champion. And the energy champions have their own version of the platform where they can in turn support the residents. So I think next slide, Roland. So they've got a champion hub where they can have a caseload management system and carry out, again, all of the necessary actions with the community, taking them through the process. The suppliers have their own portal where they can manage their appointments, upload all of the information, the data that is needed for our modelling and quality assurance. And then finally, we have the administrators. So this is a mixture of Looped energy communities, but also the local development organisations have dashboards, and they're able to then monitor everything that's going on in their community in terms of interest within the clusters, make key decisions, manage the energy champions, the suppliers, the engagements. And this system pulls together all of our methodology and means that we can actually work within a community and provide this toolkit to communities currently in Rosendale, but then across the UK, which very nicely brings me to the what next. So we're testing this model. We're constantly refining the digital spine. We've got some really exciting projects hopefully coming up within this next year. And so the key communities we're working with are Rosendale, Rochdale, and then also Bridgend in Wales. But we've got a really amazing group of future partners who are keeping tabs on what we're doing. And I'm hoping that there are a few of you listening to this right now or would like to be a future partner. So please do get in touch. But ultimately, the ambition is to create a scalable model that can actually help decarbonize millions of terraced homes, while also ensuring that the benefits of this energy transition are shared more fairly. So if that's something that you're interested in and you'd like to follow our journey as we go through larger scale demonstrators and moving through testing this blended finance and into non-grant dependency, then please do get in touch. I've also on the next slide put our current website. This is due to be updated, but again, if there are any questions later on in the session, I look forward to hearing from you.
Brilliant. Thank you so much, Phoebe. That was excellent and perfect timing, may I say, as well. One of the things I've learned from this project, from one of your colleagues, is that terrace houses are just horizontal skyscrapers, I think was a comment made in passing. Obviously not identical, but the learnings are broader than we might imagine. I've definitely got some questions for you, Phoebe, and we'll come back to you in just a second. But thanks again. And if anybody else would like to follow
Thank
up
you.
with Phoebe's offer to find out more or get involved or has any questions, please do post them in the chat and we'll come to you in just a second. So thanks again, Phoebe. That was fantastic.
Brilliant. Thank you.
Okay, I'm going to move us on to a very different part of the country. We've got Anna, Steve, and Craig from Orkney and Shetland Islands to talk to us about rural energy hubs. I won't say any more than that. Handing over to you, Anna, I think to go first. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay,
Thanks,
over to
Roland.
you.
Great. Hi, I'm Anna. I'm the project manager for the Rural Energy Hubs project and joined by Stephen and Craig. Since Roland's given us a bit of an intro already, I won't repeat that. Next slide. The Rural Energy Hubs project and the project partners are based across the island groups of Orkney and Shetland. And the pilot rural energy hub that we established during the project is also located in Shetland. Next slide. Our aim with this project has been to model a place-based approach to overcoming non-technical barriers and accelerating decarbonisation in rural and island communities, helping people and businesses to reduce both their carbon emissions and their energy bills. Now, we ran a variety of trials across heat, power and transport to test services that could potentially integrate with a rural energy hub. In keeping with today's theme of accelerating delivery in high impact sectors, we're focusing on one aspect of the project, specifically the large mobility trials. Transport is a very high impact sector for decarbonisation in rural communities, and we trialled an electric bus and an electric bin lorry to test their viability in some of the most challenging conditions in the UK. Our aim was to provide learning that could help rural local authorities understand barriers and solutions to de-risk electrification of large vehicle fleets. And the logic being that if they could work in the harsh environments of Orkney and Shetland, they could work anywhere in the UK. And with that brief introduction, I'll hand over to Stephen to tell you about the electric bus trial. Next slide.
Thanks, Anna. So as Anna says, we were trialling a bus, which on the face of it doesn't seem particularly innovative, but hadn't been done here in Shetland for various reasons. But we wanted to do a more holistic kind of review of the bus network in itself and where we were now, where we needed to get to, how we were going to accomplish that. So the the goals here were to baseline where we are, to do some real world trials with independent technical analysis, which we felt was really important. We wanted to report on this, warts and all. We wanted to analyse those non-technical barriers, and we wanted to produce a report on the strategic way forward and have that feed into our regional transport partnerships plan for the next 5 years, which is really important. I'm not sure, I think the regional transport partnerships are a Scottish-based concept, so I'm not sure how much people know about that, but we can always discuss that at a later date. So I'm not really going to talk too much about the technical side of things here today. You know, our local media summed it up, the trials up nicely actually, is that, you know, our findings were they were technically feasible, but there are still a host of barriers that remain, and we needed to concentrate on getting past those barriers. So for anyone who's interested, down at the bottom there's a link to the reports, which are live on the council's website. So, but if we can go on to the next slide. So non-technical barriers that we encountered and we were analysing here is, first and foremost, we realised quite quickly that the strategic goals of both the local authority and the regional transport partnership didn't align with the current service delivery contracts, in that our goals of sustainability and climate change targets, you know, just were not compatible with the contracts. They weren't in there, and we couldn't put them in there because in Shetland, the bus networks are actually delivered by small scale operators. And if we had said, right, 50% of your fleet needs to be electric by next year or whatever, we just simply put them out of business. So there's a lot more to it than that, but that's very basically. Again, well, like probably a lot of the UK, we have grid and depot readiness constraints that need to be addressed. The grid, especially in Shetland, there's an acknowledgement by the DNO that there's a lot of work needed done there, and we need to engage with them on that. So financial barriers still exist, and especially as touched on here, you know, we have small scale operators, sometimes family run businesses running 2 or 3 buses, and so we need to find ways of either changing the operating model or actually helping them out. So that there was a recognition that needed to be addressed. And even technology availability. We actually searched for, I think it took us over 3 months to get a bus. The bus is in this picture here. This is a Sigma 8, I think it is. It's like a half size bus. It's 27-seater and can stand some more. It's not the bus we wanted, but long story short, we just couldn't get the bus we wanted. So that we had to acknowledge that is a problem still. The demand for this technology across the UK is far outweighing the actual availability. So, and then finally, behavioural change challenges. You know, we joked about this, but the demographic for the drivers is mostly kind of retirement age old men like myself, who just kind of poo-pooed the technology. And it's we kind of joked about it, but it's a problem. And so part of the trials was actually about getting these people into the bus and trialing it themselves. And it's probably the area of the technical study that was the most positive. We got the most positive outcome on that, because the drivers did come back to us saying actually they were very pleasantly surprised, A, at how easy the technology was to drive and how comfortable it was, and B, how the performance. So if we could skip on. So we realized there's a multi-stage pathway to getting to where we need to be, basically. So we need to engage more with the bus operators. We need to look at our service delivery operating model. We need to engage with the DNO, and we need to align what our requirements are with their long-term planning. And we have started that process. We need some depot planning. Again, that goes hand in hand with the bus operator engagement. And then we need to carry on with expanded technical readiness testing of the emerging technologies, because it's a fast-moving area. And then our public sector procurement contracts, we need to do some significant work there to embed the sustainability goals but do it in a manner that doesn't actually put anybody out of business. So all that needs to be done. We're realizing that there's a 5-year time frame that we've given ourselves to do that, and then stage 2 is post that. Now, the important thing to say about this, finally, about this report and what the work we did here is we successfully got that report embedded into the Regional Transport Authority's long-term plan, which in itself was a major achievement. So that means now they have committed to doing this going forward. So that was a big win for us. Very whistle stop, but that's me, and I'll hand over to Craig to tell you what he did in Orkney.
Hi, yeah, Craig Gillen from Orkney Islands Council. And as mentioned, we're looking at the heavy goods vehicles to zero emission alternatives. So it was looking at the operational performance, economic validation, and the effects of weather. And then the trial reasoning, it was a rural environment. And if you look at the image of the map of Orkney, you'll see the two purple circles. That was the two main towns, and the two reds, the extremities of the island. So it shows that this is a very suitable place to do this sort of trial. It's a small island, but has long operational routes. And it's also known for its renewable resource, and part of the decarbonisation for the net zero commitments. If you could go to the next slide, please. So here we looked at the challenges and solutions. Again, the options for the electric refuse collection vehicle. If you do a bit of market research, but for Orkney to actually get a vehicle there, we ended up with one suitable dealer, and that was the Renault. So we tried other vehicles, not successful in getting a lease in place. So that's one of the challenges. The public procurement process is key for this type of projects, early engagement to get things moving quickly. The existing infrastructure. So the images that I've shown here is the top image shows that there wasn't suitable parking infrastructure for safe charging. The below image shows the finished article, which is the Lorraine trial, the charger in place and suitably marked safe charging locations. Part of that was also the site disruption. So with this being active, site management plans were in place, and all these things had to be coordinated through various teams within the council. The next one was the route planning, as I showed in the image map earlier. This needed to be engaged with the team on what would be suitable, because there was the range issues with the lorry itself and how far it could go with needing charge. And operator buy-in, as mentioned by Stephen, it's getting the actual operators on site to trial these, because yes, a lot were very keen on diesel still, so that's kind of another hurdle. And the local perception, key point there is just communication. So we actively broadcasted that we were trying this vehicle and that it was a trial, just so that there was everyone was aware of the current status. Next slide, please. So here's some of the trial summary and achievements. So 72 days of operational data was gathered through the summer and winter months. Again, the image on the right hand side of the map, that's showing again the two main towns and extremities. So it shows all the blue route marks is what was covered during the trial. So it was 3,236 miles recorded. It's the longest route, 116 miles in a single day. And that utilised 3 full charges, 3 charging sessions, which was 115% of the battery. The longest single trip was 55 miles using 65% of the battery. And then the kind of achievements that we mentioned as well, installed a 160 kilowatt rapid charger, upgraded the parking facility for safe charging, created a positive legacy. That's given a plug and play ready for future potential trialing, which is also very positive in this type of environment. And we received feedback from operators and management, which was good to feedback on the overall report and look at the council and the next steps. Next slide, please. So the next steps, recommendations, infrastructure strategy and a business case, looking at route optimization to identify minimum charging infrastructure requirements, because these are obviously costly. So the image on the bottom right, that shows all the areas that we could potentially locate infrastructure in Orkney, and it's quite a lot, but each of these have grid requirements, which again was mentioned by Stephen. So the key is to look at on renewal of existing charging infrastructure, upgrade to accommodate HGVs, look at whole life cost modelling, incorporating infrastructure deployment and grid upgrades, and continue to assess Scottish Government grant funding opportunities. Again, as well, monitoring technology and cost, because currently diesel lorry versus electric is electric's double the price, so that causes another issue with the local authority investing in this. And the key is the phased deployment on what's suitable at the given time. And the good news story to finish was, as you'll see in the top right-hand side of the image, is showing smaller vehicle charging. So during the bad weather around New Year, the services were having to work in the snow, and they're actually utilising the rapid charger for the smaller van to complete the service. So it was a very good outcome at the end of it all. And that's it for me. If there's any questions, we'll take them later.
Fantastic. Thank you, Craig, Stephen, Anna. If you can invite you all to put your cameras on, and Phoebe as well. We'll kick off. We've got about 10 minutes for Q&A now. I've got a sort of hopefully an easy one for all of you to start with, or maybe Orkney and Shetlands. You can decide who wants to take this one. And then I see we've got a question that's just come through, which is great. I'll come to that in a second. If anyone else has questions, please post them in the Q&A. So yeah, my opening question for all of you really is, I think across both talks, which I thought were fantastic, you talked about the fact that you've got things are technically feasible, but barriers remain, I think was the headline from the Shetland Press, I believe. So my question is, what's stopping others from copying what you've done and rolling it out elsewhere? And perhaps you can touch upon, if appropriate, what you've learned from your involvement in the Net Zero Living programme about which of your barriers are unique to your place and which are shared by other places that you've connected with. So Phoebe, can I put you on the spot and maybe start that one, and then we'll come to Shetland and Orkney. Thank you.
Yeah. So exactly the technical piece, I guess, as being an engineer, the technical piece makes sense to me, but it is the community and it's the trust. And when it comes to people's homes, it's a huge responsibility to actually know how to go into the community and know that what you're testing, when it's the innovation space, that it's realizing that it has impacts on the community. So that's something that we have taken quite seriously and have been very careful with how we've communicated and built that trust within the community. I'd say the whole point of what we're trying to do is so that it can be replicated and actually, we're hoping that we're building a methodology that's not just for Rosendale, but we're now testing in Bridgend and in Middleton. So each place already has shown that it will need to be tweaked slightly. So I think the point is how we have enough flexibility within a system that means it builds trust on that community side and the investment side. I think that's the tie that really needs to be brought together.
Brilliant. Thank you, Phoebe. And lots of questions coming in now, so I'm going to keep us moving. Who from Orkney and Shetland wants to just address that opening question about what's stopping others from copying you and which of your barriers are unique or shared by others?
I'm happy to.
Thank you, Anna. Yeah.
If you guys
Go
want.
ahead.
Yeah, I don't think I would say any of the barriers we've encountered are unique to us, but what I would say is that in the island communities, we're probably some of the more extreme version of experiencing these sorts of things. So we do think what our learning is will be very replicable for other island communities and other rural communities who will have issues with the grid, with smaller bus suppliers, or contracts that are not profitable business models where they're loss making, and so how you adjust them has to be considered differently in a business model. All availability of technology, particularly grid capacity, which is a huge issue when you're putting in these high voltage rapid chargers that you need to actually be able to turn these vehicles around on a meal break or something like that to make the routes viable. So all of that kind of learning, I think, is very applicable to other locations, but And as I said at the beginning, we think if we can work around it and find ways to work around these things in our islands, then people can everywhere. And I think I wouldn't say others shouldn't do it because we came up against barriers. It's more take the learning from us about what barriers to expect so you can plan how to work around them and have a sense of what you're likely to come up against. I don't know if Stephen or Craig would add to that, but that would be my main comment.
I think that hits the nail on the head. I think it's place-based, and so everyone's going to have subtly different challenges and whatever. But regardless of the sector we were looking at here, from a replication standpoint, it was about just having almost a checklist of the things you need to look at. And okay, some of them might not be applicable in your place, but a lot of them will be. And I think even just having all of that correlated really helps to just drive things forward.
Roland, you're on mute.
Thank you, Anna. Apologies. There's a question from Robin Parker in the chat, which I think touches upon that. Maybe we can come to that next. But just Craig, if I can just draw your attention to a question from Joanna Hewitson in the chat, where she's asking you about which routes took longer with EV versus diesel. Maybe you can just respond to that in the chat if you're comfortable doing so. I think that's specific to you specifically. But yeah, the question from Robin, and maybe Phoebe, I can invite you to speak first on this, is any reflections about piloting at small scale and what it tells us or doesn't tell us about operating at big scale, one bus versus a fleet, one home versus a whole terrace street of homes or a whole street. And yeah, maybe then I'll come to Orkney and Shetlands to comment on that as well. Any thoughts on that, Phoebe?
Yes, I was actually just about to press
Oh,
send on typing
sorry.
the answer
Okay.
to no. So yeah, the with the small scale, it has meant that we can go into the detail and actually use it as a test bed to have analysis and work out how would we do this on a larger scale, because the amount that we've done for these demonstrator homes, taking that to the larger scale would not be economically viable. So we've been trying to use this as a way to say where it's not cutting corners, but kind of what are the places for efficiency? How on a larger scale can we build community cohesion? How can we take it to a place where it's economies of scale? So we have efficiencies of having the energy champion is in your street today, and everyone within the street knows what's happening and knows how they can take part, and that can almost like the collective switch from about a decade ago of how can you then use the numbers in your advantage. So yeah, huge pros and cons, and it's going to be quite interesting taking what we believe we've built to work for that larger scale and see whether that needs to change in reality.
Yeah. Any reflections from the rural energy hubs about small versus larger scale? Any reflections you feel you would like to share?
Don't know if either of you guys want to come in on your examples or
Nothing particularly insightful other than I think that regardless of the size and the scale that you're doing this, from a non-technical barriers point of view, they're pretty much the same. The technical barriers change greatly, obviously, with scale, but I think the non-technical barriers, which it was our area of focus, remain the same. I think maybe that's specific to what we were looking at, but that's all
fantastic.
Yeah, and I think in both trials, while we trialed one vehicle in each location, the reports and the planning you guys did and modeling off the back of that learning was about what would it look like to scale this up in each location. So you learn a lot that's useful. The main thing to my mind is doing something for real in the real world.
Yeah.
Gives you 1,000 challenges you didn't think about at the planning stage, and that's the most valuable thing, no matter what scale you do it at.
Yeah. There's a famous quote, which I'm going to butcher, but the difference between theory and practice, in theory is nothing, but in practice is everything, or something like that. Anyway, but okay, and thanks, Greg, for responding to Joanna in the chat. I think that's super helpful. We have one more speaker coming up, and actually, the final two questions we have, I think, might tee us up quite nicely for that. So one is, if there was one thing you could change about national policy, what would it be? And that's to both places, to whoever wants to tackle it from Orkney and Shetland Islands, but also perhaps to both of you or all of you as well. If there's one ask that you have for the 50, 60 people on this call and however many more are watching the recording afterwards, how can people help you move your project forward? So one wish for a change of policy and one ask from each of you, perhaps. Maybe we'll start with Orkney and Shetland, and then we'll finish with you, Phoebe, if that's all right. Who would like to go first from Orkney and Shetland?
I'm happy to go because I think it's a
Go
nice
for it.
easy one. Energy costs.
Okay, say
If we
more.
could have
I
some
was going to say the same.
standardized energy costs so that we're not paying a lot more money than people down further south in the country, because it changes everything. It changes the viability of projects massively.
What's the differential, Stephen, from
That's a good question. I couldn't tell you
roughly?
that, but I mean,
Okay.
Anna, do you have that sort of
Yeah, I don't
information?
know the figures to hand, but we have the highest tariffs because the
I see.
tariff structure is currently based on how far you are from a large power plant,
Got it.
which puts us at the end of the network. However, we're doing lots of the generating now
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
instead with the change to renewables.
Yeah, and just it also, on that case, it does make the project sometimes questioned a lot more when people see
Hmm.
this happening. So you're actually at a double fighting a battle there,
Yeah.
because, like I mentioned in my presentation, that there's a lot of renewables on both of
Yeah.
these islands. And then the big question is, why is energy so expensive?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
then
Yeah.
as well, when they know that, and you see a big electric bus or an electric wind lobby, obviously
Mm.
that's the standing charges for that isn't cheap. Like an example I can give of a cost thing, it would take, for if you're taking the diesel versus the electric and purchasing the more expensive vehicle, it would take 20 years potentially
Yeah.
if you're taking one factor, and that's just because of the cost. So I mean, there's like some big numbers that cause that issues.
Absolutely. And so I think that's a wish or an ask or maybe a bit of both. Any changes to policy or any other asks from Orkney and Shetland before we move over to Rosendale and Phoebe?
I suppose the one other bit that's just to add on to that is the tariff specific to standing charges for rapid
Okay. Yeah.
chargers, because when you get into the larger vehicle rapid chargers, they're just having it
Yeah.
there costs about, I think, what was it, £800 a month or something, Greg?
Mhm.
Yeah, and that actually loops in well to the previous question about the small scale. So when you've only got one vehicle or one charger,
Yeah.
and you don't have a bigger fleet, that one vehicle in essence is costing an extra £800 a month just to have that load connection from the grid. So that adds another set of figures that puts it in the wrong direction.
Okay, fantastic. If anyone can help with that on this call, then please do get in touch or let us know. Phoebe, how about you? Do you have a wish or to change policy or an ask of this group that we can help you in any shape or form? Thank you.
Yeah, so the local power plan and the warm homes plan have been quite significant in the space. So it's perhaps not a wish, but maybe a tentative, a hope of how that's going to affect us over the next few years. So it's a wish for the Warm Homes Agency for this to be something that can actually really shift place-based solutions across the UK. But in terms of both a wish and an ask is about the fair flexibility piece.
Mhm.
So we've been thinking a lot about how does our solution fit within the wider energy system, and how does that currently we work on national price signals, and actually there's a lot to be said for the data that can be used from the likes of our projects, and how can we actually have local solutions that therefore have local price signals. So if you've got 10 EV chargers going suddenly responding to a national price signal, that's not going to be great for the secondary sub. And so an ask is to anyone in the flexibility space. This is something that we're considering a lot, and actually we've got a couple of roundtables and workshops, saying this is something that we need as Net Zero Terrace Street, and we're working with various DNOs, but also any other projects that have similar connections to the grid and are wanting to have shape the direction of the flexibility space. And ask to get in touch with myself, or Kate Gilmartin is rallying the troops on this. So that would be my ask.
Thank you so much to all of you. Please join me in a little virtual round of applause for our 4 speakers just now. We're now going to move on for the final section of the day. Feel free to jump off the camera streams, but thank you again to Phoebe, Craig, Stephen, and Anna. We're now going to hear from Christian. Christian, I'm not going to say too much more. I'm sure you'll say a bit more, but it's been spearheading this Net Zero Living programme that has underpinned the 2 projects you've heard about today, and a lot more besides. So Christian, when you're ready, over to you. Thank you.
Brilliant. Thanks, Roland, and hi everyone. Good afternoon. And you can see over the last 3 years how my hair has kind of like got shorter and sort of with that photo from a few years back when we started off and embarked on this Net Zero Living programme. So thank you for that memory to my rather large hairstyle before this. Hi, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for being here, and thank you for your interest in the Innovate UK's Net Zero Living programme. I guess either through the work that you've done throughout, so you've already been involved, or hopefully there are people online that are here to embark on a journey for your particular place. So this learning event today has been part of a series of activities over the last weeks and months that we've been doing to really disseminate and create knowledge transfer for this programme. And it's in one way it's a little bit sad, because I guess it marks the end of the programme's current funding period. But I think what I'm going to talk about today hopefully helps you feel like it shouldn't feel like an ending. It actually should feel like a really great sort of opportunity to hand over and really make some impact in the real world. So from the testing and learning of programme activity into delivery that is better informed by the learnings that we've created. So with stronger approaches, stronger collaboration, and clearer routes to the adoption of technology that can really make those places better. So in the next, hopefully 12 minutes, I'm going to try to give you a whistle-stop tour, and I'm going to try and cover 3 things. Firstly, I'll remind us why Innovate UK created the Net Zero Living programme, and why it focused on the adoption of innovation, not just the invention of it. Second, I want to summarise what the programme has enabled in practice, the real-world approaches that participating local authorities and partners, and you've heard from a couple of them from today and in previous sessions, have really tested to overcome those barriers to adoption that aren't around the technology. And then third, touch on how you can continue to build on the shared learnings from the programme so the experience of others continues to add value in helping more places to move faster. Okay, so thank you, Roland. So I guess on accelerated adoption, Innovate UK is really committed to helping the UK capture the value that it creates, scale what it invents, and convert that scientific excellence into global leadership. And net zero is really one of the most important areas where this really matters. The UK is already producing and leading lots of net zero technologies, so technologies that can create better places by delivering warmer homes, cheaper local energy, new skills, and more secure work for communities. But invention isn't the finish line. For UK innovators to grow, and then therefore for communities to benefit, local markets need to adopt net zero technologies and support the commercialization. So when we talk about barriers to net zero, it's really easy for all of us to focus on the technology side of things. But as many of you know on the call, the constraints to place-based deployment are often non-technological. And I guess the list that we've got there are things that are really familiar, hopefully, to most of you on the call already, but they're not about the technology, and they're about many other things. So the real question is about what isn't only about what innovations can help to improve that place, but it's also how do we organize places so innovation can be adopted at pace and at scale. And the Net Zero Living programme really set out to help answer that question, working with local authorities and businesses and the academic community, researchers in the real world. So I think it's good to reflect on sort of why place-based delivery. So if you could just next slide, please, Roland. Thank you. So it's really worth saying what helped inspire that programme's design. So the Net Zero Living programme was shaped by a growing evidence base and by what many of you already knew from experience, that delivery happens locally. So research that helped inform and inspire Net Zero Living, including Innovate UK's Accelerating Net Zero Delivery Report with PwC back in 2022 now, when we were thinking about this programme, suggested that working at the level of places on integrated system solutions can be more affordable and deliver greater overall benefits than blanket approaches, because places can tailor action to local housing stock, infrastructure, supply chains, and community priorities. So we should be, I guess, clear at this point, the full evaluation of Net Zero Living as a programme is still being compiled. So we don't have all the sort of evaluation yet, but that's coming. And that is what will give us a really robust assessment of the outcome of the programmes, the outcomes of the programme and the impact. But what we can say today is this, and it maybe links to some of the questions earlier. While the programme's been running, the direction of government policy has increasingly moved towards place-based delivery. Delivery expectations land in places when it comes to retrofit, local power, grid build-out, investable pipelines, and regional growth. So the Net Zero Living programme has really been working through what that shift means in practice, what capabilities and partnerships are needed for places to deliver faster and with greater confidence. Next slide, please. So the Net Zero Living really combined three things. Of course, it provided funding. It helped help local authorities and partners test new approaches in real conditions. It also provided insight. So learning that didn't stay locked just in those individual projects, but moved across this network that we're really trying to create, this ecosystem. A really important part of the programme for us. And also expert support. So from organisations including City Science, Bankers Without Boundaries, Innovate UK Business Connect, Involve, Regen, the Carbon Trust, Zulka, and Stronger Stories, really helping places bring specialist capability into those local contexts. So this mix of funding, insight, and support enabled participating places and businesses do things differently to overcome the non-technological barriers to deploying net zero innovation and being innovative in those approaches as well. This really matters for us and hopefully for you, because it's created, we believe, something genuinely valuable. A national test and learn environment where approaches could be tried, refined, and then adapted elsewhere, rather than each place having to reinvent solutions alone. So I do really want to make a point of really thanking everyone for being involved in this programme and the work that many of you have done throughout the programme that's really contributed to this and to the learnings that we've got to today. Next slide, please. So before I just move into what the Net Zero Living programme has enabled, I just wanted to place it into wider context. Because Net Zero Living is part of much bigger long-term commitment from Innovate UK to place-based innovation. And really the sort of the point of showing this is really simple, but it's all about Innovate UK we've been consistently backing the idea that places are where innovation becomes impact, where technologies are adopted, markets form, and benefits really show up in people's daily lives. And Net Zero Living has really played a specific role in that wider portfolio, focusing on what it takes to overcome those non-technological barriers so adoption can happen faster and at scale. So with that wider context in mind, let me turn to the three things Net Zero Living has enabled in practice. So across the programme, three themes keep coming through. First, it has built local capacity, skills, systems, and processes that help organisations move faster and work across silos. Second, it has enabled new forms of collaboration across public, private, and community partners so adoption can scale. And third, it's really tested models, tools, and approaches in real-life conditions, building learning about what works, what doesn't, and what can be replicated. The next couple of slides, I'm going to quickly try and bring those to life. So when local authorities have the right skills and systems and processes, they can move faster and work across silos to deliver plans that accelerate the adoption of innovation. There's many examples of this over the Net Zero Living programme of local authorities doing things differently to improve skills, planning, and delivery. Adoption can also be faster when there is public confidence, business participation, and an investor belief that a place is a clear route to delivery. So participating authorities, such as some of those listed here, took fresh approaches to engagement, building legitimacy, unlocking new ideas, and giving businesses and investors greater confidence to act in response to a clear demand. And another theme we've had to manage, and you know this probably better than anyone, is that delivery doesn't happen in a stable environment. It happens through, could we go back? Yeah, thank you. It happens through elections, reorganisations, budget cycles, leadership change, and competing pressures. And through the Net Zero Living programme, we saw organisations use governance to provide continuity through those shifts. This kind of continuity is essential because net zero adoption is a multi-year delivery challenge. Good governance helps maintain direction, reduce risk, and keeps progress moving. And finally, capacity includes local supply chains and workforce. And a really crucial point, when places plan for skills and supply chain alongside delivery, net zero becomes not just a cost, but a growth opportunity and resilience opportunity. Next slide, please. So moving on to how Net Zero Living Programme participants have found new ways to collaborate so adoption can scale. When local authorities use their convening power well, collaboration can unlock skills, capacity and investment that no single organisation can deliver alone. It aligns public leadership with business expertise, community insight and delivery capability. And it reduces delivery risk by creating shared ownership of outcomes. But collaboration needs structures, clarity of purpose, clear governance and visible routes to delivery. We've had many participants test what those structures can look like. Regional collaboration is also increasingly important. It helps local authorities pool expertise, align priorities, and build the critical mass needed for major infrastructure, skills, and investment programs. Done well, it reduces duplication, increases market confidence, and tackles challenges that no single authority can address alone. We saw programme places formalise those regional collaborations in new ways, using regional frameworks, partnerships, and governance structures. And we also saw progress in how data is used to enable collaboration, not only for reporting what happened, but to enable collective decision-making and delivery planning. Next slide, please. And collaboration didn't stop at UK borders. There was an international element to the Net Zero Living Programme. We saw several UK cities establish formal twinning partnerships with South Korean cities as an example, sharing learning and building links between local authorities, academic institutions and businesses. And as a result, that enables many innovative UK companies to explore those new markets and form collaborations with overseas partners with a view to creating impact there. Next slide, please. Sorry, I'm flying through this. I know we've only got 4 minutes left. I'm getting there, Roland. So with support from the Net Zero Living Programme, participants were able to test and refine new approaches that could help them move towards structured, investable pipelines of projects. Just to give you one example, Belfast City Council used its local area energy plan to shape and develop a live pipeline of investable projects to create better outcomes for people and places. So this approach really allowed Belfast to test delivery models and embed net zero ambition into long-term city planning. The result is a scalable, investable programme of clearly articulated, quantified, and valued projects that is ready for procurement and investment. Next slide, please. So at the start of this presentation, I mentioned that while the Net Zero Living Programme has been running, the direction of government policy has increasingly moved towards place-based delivery, retrofit, community power, grid build-out, investable pipelines, and industrial clusters. Place-based adoption is often the shortest route from policy to deploy technology, and from ambition to benefits people can actually feel. And that's why the timing of this programme matters. Many of these commitments and targets weren't announced when the Net Zero Living Programme began, but as the policy direction has evolved, it's increasingly recognised that delivery needs to be organised locally and regionally through capability, partnerships and pipelines. So although the Net Zero Living Programme's current funding has come to an end, now's a really great time to carry forward its learning, to keep doing things differently, so places across the UK can seize the economic and social opportunities that come with decarbonisation. And really importantly, as the programme's evaluation is completed, it will strengthen the evidence base further by showing what approaches are most effective, under what conditions and how they can be replicated. A couple of slides and I'm done, Roland. Community practice. So we've got this community practice for local authorities that saw all of these great things, 1,000 collaborations, 50 training sessions. And this is really what created that national test and learn environment. An ecosystem where approaches could be tried, refined, and then adapted elsewhere. And next slide, please. Call to action. So building on shared learnings. So we really want to make sure this learning continues to help the place-based adoption of net zero innovation grow. A set of resources based on the experience of local authorities and their project partners during the Net Zero Living Programme will be available at the URL on the screen. I think it was posted earlier as well, so you can get the links there. But it's all about the Creating Better Places handbook, firstly, setting out 10 areas where local innovation can improve lives and unlock growth. Second, the Creating Better Places resource packs, 10 deeper dives into areas of delivery where participants have done things differently, designed to be practical for teams to use. Third, expert reports, webinars and articles, programme insights across buildings and retrofit, community empowerment and planning, pipeline and finance. And finally, a library of other related perspectives. The point here is simple. This shouldn't be a closed chapter. The learning's there to really be picked up adapted and put to work. And our content is also available on Net Zero Go. If we skip to the last slide, Roland, I'll just finish off. So just to next one, I will just skip over this one for the time. So I think really just to close, I really want to encourage people to keep doing things differently, continue to build on the experience of others, continue to borrow those learnings with pride, continue to connect and share with each other, keep doing things differently. I've said that already, but keep creating better places. Thank you.
Brilliant. Thank you so much. Please join me in a little virtual round of applause for Christian. Christian, that was fantastic. I'm particularly struck by the figure that place-based approaches cost half the amount and have 3 times the impact. Very curious to see what the results of the Net Zero Living evaluation will be. I don't think we've got time for Q&A now because we're nearly at time, but I did want to ask you what your wish, hope, and ask was as we asked our other speakers. So maybe you can post something quickly in the chat if you're comfortable with doing that. But just in the interest of time, I just want to let everyone know before you drop off today that this is the 4th of 4 webinars. The 3 previous ones are on the screen now, and perhaps my colleague Lorraine can just post the link so you can all get access to them, which is also where you'll get access to this one if you want to share it with anybody else. I've also been asked to promote this Innovation Exchange Challenge, an offshore renewable energy catapults flagship accelerator for offshore wind for up to 10 high growth SMEs. If that sounds interesting, check it out. And last but not least, we've said it a few times, but if you have any questions about Net Zero Living or the program, or want to find out more about anything that's been shared today, please check out the links on the screen or in the chat box. And thank you again, everybody, for joining. Thank you, Christian. Thank you, Phoebe, Anna, Stephen, and Craig for presenting. And thank you all for joining today. Have a great rest of your day. Take care.